Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I've been thinking for a while about how I want to do maybe a things I love about Tokyo transit video. But I realized that so many of the things that I love about Tokyo also apply to other Japanese cities, and I also thought that there's a lot of things I like about Tokyo and Japanese transit and all of these topics. And so I thought I'll probably have to do multiple videos, and so let's start with a video on things I love about Japanese transit. Let's get into it. If you're not already, consider supporting the channel on Patreon and following me on social media. It helps us get the word out on new videos. The first thing I love about transit in Japan is generally people have fantastic manners. Now, this might seem like a minor thing, but it is great being on a train that is just quiet. People aren't talking loudly on their phones. People don't bring Bluetooth speakers onto the train and just start blasting random music. It's great. People also keep trains really clean and stations as well, and it just makes the whole experience so much more relaxing. The next thing I want to talk about is train design. In North America, we do things like this, this, and this, whereas in Japan, they have trains like this, this, and this. I think it's generally true that in Japan, they're just far more creative with the design language and the colors of trains, and it's enlivening. It's nice to see a train that doesn't look like a metal box, and I think that's something that's great about Japanese transit. You know, when you look at a car, cars have all kinds of different designs and color schemes and the like, but we don't see that with our trains in North America. And I know, car metaphor, but seriously, I don't think there's anything wrong with multiple colors and interesting designs. The next thing I love is how the whole country is knitted together with high quality intercity service. It's not only the Shinkansen, but the Shinkansen is a big part of that. Now, to be clear, there are parts of Japan where people drive and where the majority of people drive. But for the most part, you can get to a lot of the country on public transit, and it's incredible coming from Canada to be able to say that. There's also a lot of standardization. Big train stations tend to have a lot of the same amenities. They're comfortable, they're clean, you have the same resources. It's just nice, and it's a great experience traveling from coast to coast to coast on public transit. Of course, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon because I will be talking more about the Shinkansen in my Japanese high-speed rail explained video, which is coming soon. The next topic is one that doesn't get talked about enough, and that's the integration with cycling. Now, we think about integration with cycling in places like Amsterdam, but Japan is really good for cycling in general. A lot of stations have gigantic bike parking lots when they're in more suburban areas. More urban stations tend to have more compact bike parking options, sometimes even automated systems that you can roll your bike into. There's a lot of electric bikes available, so people who are a little less able-bodied can still use a bike, and people don't have to really worry all too much about their bikes getting stolen. I see a lot of people leaving their bikes at various stations without even a lock on them. Another big thing that I saw when I visited Japan that I don't see in North America, and I didn't really even see in Europe, was a focus on convenience as a driving factor in public transit. That means great transit-oriented development, so you can just walk out of the train station and into your final destination. But it also means things like amenities at stations. That's things like shops and lockers where you can store your stuff. That's a useful one. And vending machines everywhere so you can get food or a drink while you're waiting for your train. Of course, in addition, your fare cards can be used to pay for things like food at a vending machine or stuff at a convenience store, which again just enhances the convenience of the whole ecosystem of public transit options. Probably my favorite thing about Japanese transit is the fantastic infotainment that you get on the trains. You get information like number of minutes until your next stop, and in many trains you actually get the layout of your next station. So if you're in a certain car, you can see where your exit is relative to you, and you can even walk down the train and get closer to the exit that you want to take to exit the station, and that is just fantastic. Actually, exits in general are marked in the wayfinding system, and so if you're trying to meet someone by a certain exit, or if you're going to a destination and they say, hey, you need to go to exit B4, and that's the closest exit to our business, well, it's just super convenient. Everything is really thought out, and I think in North America, we think about everything from the perspective of a car user, and that's why we don't have innovations like this. We have parkades and drive-thrus and all these things that make life with a car pretty easy. But in Japan, it seems that the same sort of mindset of how do we make things incredibly easy applies to people who use transit. And so they do all kinds of wild stuff like this to make the transit experience just great. Now, I know a lot of these things have been sort of intermingled with Japanese culture, and the next one is definitely the case. The service you get from employees working at the transit system. It's incredible to have people standing on the platform that are often willing to direct you around the station, or the quality of driving of trains where drivers kind of try to make the train trip as smooth as possible, or people at the ticket office who are willing to walk you all the way to your exit just so you get to the right location. The service is second to none on Japanese transit systems, and that's something I think is probably the best in the world. The next thing is about service of the other kind, just the train service. Service is far more varied, I find, in Japan. You have a lot more options. So instead of always running every single train the same way and running every single train to the same destination, there's just a lot more flexibility so people can get to a final location much more easily. In Japan, there's a lot less mode obsession, and so they typically just focus on running the trains more, and that really comes through in the way service operates. It's the reason you have people movers that have become metro systems, and it's the reason you have two-track monorails that operate express service. If you want me to talk about that last one and make a video about it, I could. Let us know down in the comments below. The next thing is back onto the fare cards. Fare cards work much more broadly. Not only can you use them to pay for stuff, as I mentioned before, that's not a universal thing, but lots of small shops and the like let you pay for things with a Passmo card or whatever. But fare cards tend to work interoperably. Of course, it's very complicated how interoperability works, but a lot of the time for trips you can use a single fare card even if you're covering a great distance, and that is fantastic. It's something that we just don't do in North America, and it would be great if we started doing it. The next thing might sound strange, but it's the fun features of the transit system. It's hard to describe fun in a transit system until someone has visited Japan. It's just little things, like the fact that a lot of the IC cards or the fare cards have kind of nice designs with mascots and the like. It's the fact that trains often play music at each station, so you know when you get to your station, and each station has a little kind of jingle to it, which is really cool. It's the interesting designs of trains that are unique and different from what you see in North America. It's all of these elements that make transit a pleasant experience. It's not just about traveling, it's about enjoying your trip and just being relaxed. And I think that that's something that Japan does that, again, nowhere else in the world does it quite like they do in Japan. The last thing I want to talk about is the random innovations that we would say are impossible in North America. So these are things like having a ton of different trains running through a subway with platform screen doors and everything just working seamlessly. It's having trains like the Keihan 5000 series that have 5 doors per side per car, but that have seats that can go up and down. So if the train needs to operate in more of a commuter mode, seats can drop down and only 3 doors will open. And if it needs to operate in more of a rapid transit style, the seats literally raise up in front of the doors and you have all of your doors available. We would just say that's impossible in North America. I think all of this comes together to make Japan my favorite country in the world for public transit, and a country I definitely will be visiting once I can again. It's just a place that shows you so much of what is possible if you really put your mind to it with public transit, and it is a model for the rest of the world, still to this day. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. Let me know in the comments down below what videos you want me to make about Japan in the future, what cities I should talk about, and I'll see you in the next one.